Hello, my dear listeners. Welcome to the healing station. Here at the healing station, we receive our healing. For physical sickness, we receive our healing. For emotional pain, we receive our healing. For mental problems, we receive our healing. For psychological problems, we receive our healing. For financial difficulties. Here at the healing station, we begin to enjoy health, the best of health, because God starts to restore us every area of our lives. He begins to restore, and he begins to do a complete repair work, and then he restores to us what we have lost. Here at the healing station, God begins to soothe us, and he provides for us remedies to solve our problems, remedies for all our problems. 1 Timothy 6 verse 6 says, 1 Timothy 6 verse 6 says, godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world. That is verse 7. Godliness and contentment is great gain, verse 6 and verse 7. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. But with food and raiment we shall be content. With food and raiment we shall be content. Contentment. We're talking about contentment. We look at Elisha, Prophet Elisha, in 2 Kings chapter 4. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 8, 9, and 10, and 11, and 12. The Shunammite woman has established a routine where she feeds the man of God. That every time Elisha comes to Shunnem, the Shunammite woman feeds him, gives him a meal. So after a while, the Shunammite woman approaches the husband and says, let us make for him a little chamber. Let us make for the man of God a little chamber. Let us make for him a little chamber. And then in that little chamber, we shall furnish the little chamber with a bed, with a table, with a stool, with a candlestick, with a bed, with a candlestick, with a table, with a stool, 4 items. And they go ahead and make the little chamber for the man of God. So the man of God, when he comes through to Shunnem, he passes there, and he goes into the chamber and starts to rest. So we're told that there's this one time he came into the chamber and he lay there. And when he lay there, he started to speculate on what is this that can be done for the great woman. He said, she has been good to us. She has cared for us with many cares. What is this that we can do for her? And he suggested talking to the king or talking to the captain of the host, but the lady said, I dwell among my own people. So then Gehazi mentioned that they need a baby, that they do not have a baby. So the prophet prophesied a baby for them, and the following year the couple had a baby. The Shunnem woman and her husband, the Shunammite woman and her husband, they got a baby. Today we're talking about contentment, and we are considering that Elisha was very much content living or staying in that small accommodation, because the Bible says that let us make for him a little chamber on the wall. A little chamber on the wall means an extension on the wall. An upper room means that it was not so big. A little means that it's not so big. But we see that Elisha the prophet was very much happy with the accommodation, with the little chamber, with the upper room. He was very much happy with this accommodation that had the basic or the barest of furnishings, only 4 items: a table, a bed, a stool, and a candlestick. If he had been a greedy man, he would have complained and said, the great Shunem woman is a rich woman. She could easily have made for me a bigger cottage. She could have made for us a bigger cottage for me and my servant Gehazi. She could have furnished it with more items. But you see that he was content, and he was very happy with the little chamber. The little chamber with the 4 basic furnishings: a table, a bed, and a candlestick and a chair or a stool. We're talking about contentment, and we're saying that Elisha the prophet was content. He was very happy with this little chamber. He was very happy, relaxing in. He came in there and relaxed. He enjoyed the little chamber. He enjoyed the little chamber with the bare furnishings. He did not ask for something bigger. He did not complain why something bigger had been made for why something small was made for him. But he enjoyed the small accommodation, he enjoyed the little chamber with the bare furnishings. We are talking about contentment. And then we look at Elijah the Tishbite. Elijah the Tishbite in 2 Kings 17. Same thing when he goes to the widow of Zarephath. There is famine in the land, and God sends him to the widow of Zarephath. And when he sits at the gate waiting for the widow of Zarephath to show up, she comes to fetch firewood, two sticks of firewood, so that she may prepare the last meal. And Elijah the Tishbite addresses her and says, kindly bring me a little water. He says, kindly bring me a little water, fetch me a little water. And then he goes on again to say, and a little morsel of bread, and a morsel of bread. He says, a little water, fetch me a little water, and a morsel of bread. A little water and a morsel of bread, a little water and a morsel of bread. And the widow of Zarephath, of course, complains and says that the flour is very little. And the man of God prophesies and says, if you make for me this morsel of bread first, then God says that the flour will never run out and the oil will never run out. And we shall continue to eat all the way until this famine is over. Until this famine is over, we shall be assured of a meal every day until this famine is over. But today we are looking at contentment, and we are saying the prophet Elijah was a content man. He asked for a little water. He didn't say, bring me a jug of water. He didn't say, bring me a jug full of water. He said, give me a little water. And then he said, fetch for me a little water. And then he said, fetch for me a morsel of bread. A morsel of bread. He didn't say, bring me a whole loaf of bread. He could have said that. At the same time, again, we realize that we're talking about contentment, and we're saying that Elijah, the Tishbite, could have complained to God himself, saying, why are you sending me to a widow in Zarephath? Why aren't you sending me to a prince or to a chief or to someone wealthy? Why aren't you sending me to a wealthy man? Why are you sending me to a widow who's struggling, who can barely make it? Because he had learned contentment, he didn't have a problem when God says, I'm sending you to the widow of Zarephath. I've already prepared her psychologically to support you. He didn't have a problem. He didn't have a problem. So he comes and says, fetch for me a little water, a little water. And he says, and make for me a morsel of bread. Morsel indicates a small quantity, a small portion. So he's content with a small portion of water. He's content with a small portion of bread. We're talking about contentment today, and we are saying godliness with contentment is great gain. We brought nothing in this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. And with food and raiment, so shall we be content. So we find that Elisha was content with the little accommodation, with the little chamber on the wall, the upper room in the wall, an extension in the wall with the bare furnishings. And then we find that Prophet Elijah was content with a little water and with a morsel of bread. And Prophet Elijah lived with this Shunammite woman for the rest of their lives. I mean, for those 3 years until the drought came to pass and until rain fell again. And he was content with a little water, and he was content with a morsel of bread. We're talking about contentment, and we're saying godliness and contentment is great gain. 1 Timothy 6, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. Kindly share, subscribe, comment, like, and follow, and then practice contentment. Practice this life of contentment. Teach your soul to be content. Teach your soul to be satisfied with small things. Teach your soul to appreciate the small things of life. Thank you very much. Until next time we meet again at the healing station, contentment And godliness is great gain, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. Bye bye.